It's good to be with you tonight on this third Sunday of Lent. Again, we are making what I've called a sacred journey together. We're making this journey, opening our lives to Christ, opening our lives for forgiveness of things that we've done that we shouldn't, things that we've said that we shouldn't, the sins of our lives. We ask for God's forgiveness on this journey. But we are journeying to a hard place. Because tonight I want to talk about the cross. In 1 Corinthians, the first chapter, Paul talks to the church at Corinth about the cross. Paul says, in the eyes of many people, the cross is nothing but foolishness, and it is nothing but a scandal. For some reason, this week I've been thinking about some songs that have been a part of my life, songs that I learned early that probably shaped my theology more than preaching or anything else that we did in the church. The old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. Why would Paul write to the church at Corinth and say, there are people who are going to look at this cross on which Jesus died, and it's going to prevent them from accepting him as the Messiah. They will consider it foolishness. But I want you to know that the foolishness of the world, Paul said, is often the wisdom of God. And the scandal that the world sees in the cross is the salvation event in the life of Jesus. Why would they think it was a scandal and what was foolishness? Well, to die on a cross in Jesus' day was to undergo the worst kind of death you could experience as a criminal. When Jesus was dying, it was a way of saying, here is an insurrectionist. Here is somebody who has disobeyed the rules that we have set down. And he's going to die in the most horrific way that we have for somebody to die. Most of the Jews were not expecting the Messiah to be like this. They were looking for the conquering Messiah, not the crucified Messiah. And it's interesting today that in some sense, the Jews are still looking for the first coming of the Messiah. And those of us who follow Christ are looking for the second coming of Jesus as the Messiah. And we're looking for him in the second coming as being a person who will conquer and make all of the broken, bent pieces of life straight, and the suffering will be no more. So Paul said, I want you to understand that when you follow Jesus, When you open your life to receive him into your life, and you open your life to ask him to forgive you of the things that you have done wrong, the sins of your life, what we're talking about is the old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. When my daughter, Laura Beth, was about 10, I came by the kitchen window and it was open, and she was outside with about 4 or 5 of her friends. And they were talking. I remember hearing one little girl ask Laura Beth, "Your dad is a doctor. What kind of doctor is he?" Of course, they were used to a doctor who had needles and a stethoscope, and I had none of those things. So I watched Laura Beth as she searched for some kind of response, and finally she said, "He's a doctor who can't do anything." Now, later, Laura Beth got her own doctorate in theology. So now we have 2 people in the family who are doctors who can't do anything. But when I think about the proclamation that you and I have this time of the year, I am reminded of something that Karl Barth said one time, that marvelous Swiss theologian who often wrote about preaching. In Barth's mind, preaching was a sacrament. I know we don't use that term in Southern or in Baptist churches, maybe in other churches in which you're affiliated. We don't use sacrament, but what it means is the holiness of God can pour through that event. We are not up there to make people like us in the pulpit. We're not there to entertain. We're not there to put on a show. Fundamentally, we are there with the hope and the prayer that somehow God can use what we do, and the holiness of God will break through our words. When I first gave my life to be a preacher, I really thought I'd be able to change everything. I mean, I thought I would get up to speak. And I had this illusion that people would just be captivated by what I had to say, and everybody's lives would be changed. That's not the case. It certainly wasn't the case when I was a minister. Not everybody was changed to whom I preached. And I learned really that my words were a gift. And that the invitation was just that, an invitation and not an imposition. The old rugged cross. You and I, look at that. I want you to look at it. That's why I love these hymns, because you and I are called to imagine something in our mind. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, and I can see it in the imagination of my mind. It was a terrible way to die, but Jesus gave his life And do you know why those words keep coming back to me? Because when I first sang them, they brought such hope to my life, such assurance that God loved me and God cared for me. I needed that hope, and I need that hope today. Can you see it? On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross. Some say foolishness, some say scandal. I say it's the hope of God for my life. Amen.